All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to continue on with our notes. Today we're going to find something called the constant of proportionality. I'll be teaching you how to do that. Before we start, I'd like you to try to copy this down. So if you need to pause the video, you could do that and copy this right now. All right, so as we're continuing, I'm assuming you've already copied this down. We are going to find the constant of proportionality. So the first thing is we do need to assume that these are proportion. And how you find out if something is proportional or not, it was in the previous notes. I'm just going to scroll up. But just know that if the numbers are constantly changing, like for example, adding 8 right there, that means they're multiples of 8, so that's good. So both the top and bottom numbers have to be adding by the same number over and over again. So it should be a repetitive process. And in this case, we could tell that the top is increasing by 1 and the bottom is increasing by 3. So, So that should be okay. These numbers should work out for us. So to find out the constant of proportionality, we do need to turn this into a fraction, something that you are familiar with. Now, I did put the letters P and Q, right? And you could already, as we've already kind of identified, you could turn this into a fraction by having Q over P. So in this case, when we are writing the fractions down, we are going to write that all these values are going to be using that formula. So we could say that for every 3 fish, you're going to get 1 tank. So go ahead and copy this down as well. And that is equivalent to the next number, which is 6 fish that you will find resting in 2 tanks. And that leads to the third one, which is 9 fish that you will find resting in 3 tanks. So, how do you find out the constant of proportionality? The thing is, you just have to put it in this Q to P form, and you could disregard the numbers or the words here. And you could see that what you're left with, if you do get rid of the fish in the tank, you're left with 3 over 1, 6 over 2, and 9 over 3. So therefore, the constant of proportionality is going to be 3. That is the constant. So the constant of proportionality is pretty much when you turn this into fraction and you simplify it. Let's go ahead and write that down in our definition then. So the way that I'm going to define this is constant of proportionality is pretty much the multiple by which the numbers increase. And it is usually written as an improper, a fraction. Or an improper fraction. So I'm pointing this out because this is why in the last algebra unit, I did mention that you don't necessarily have to turn numbers into mixed numbers. It's mostly because we were setting up for this. So having these constants of proportionality, it is nice to have numbers that are just mixed or not mixed fractions, so they're improper fractions. All right, so that's a constant of proportionality. It is usually listed as a number. So let's try to find out. Oh, by the way, real quick, this can be represented by the letter K. All right, so let me give you one formula here for the constant of proportionality. if you are finding it, you are finding what K is, and the way you do it is you take Q and divide it by P. This should be the formula that you are constantly using. If you are wondering where any of these letters are, please go back to the notes. You can look for P and Q and build your knowledge off from that. So to continue on, once we can find the constant of proportionality, now we should be able to come up with an equation. And so what we are going to add on here is what we are going to call the equations of proportions. So in the if you remember that P and Q are equal to the ratio, so let's say if P has a certain ratio to Q and we have K is the constant of proportionality, we could put this all together into one nice little equation. The equation will be Q, so the ladder number is equal to whatever K is times P. And if you think about it, it kind of does make sense, because once you do find the ratio of the constant of proportionality, then you should be able to kind of plug those numbers in and see how they make sense, right? So in a formula like this, we are mostly going to replace the K number, and then that way if we ever find out what P is, we should be able to plug that in. So let's try to take a look at how we're going to apply this. As usual, we are going to write our little tables. So just make sure that you are familiar with it. If you are not quite familiar with it, there's that IXL that you could still continue working on. And let's say that we are just listing, let's say we have a few boxes, and in the box we could put some toys. And so this will be the letter P, and this will be the letter Q. Now let's say that for each one box I could put 3 toys in there. So if I were to continue this on, and let's say we're going to add up to 4 different things, then you know that, well, first of all, to confirm this, we're going to have to take a look at the if there's 2 boxes, let's see how many toys. Oh, it looks like we're able to fit 6 in there. So now, how do we turn this equation into something useful, or what is this equation going to be? To find the equation, you do have to find the K, like what is K going to be. So in this case, remember that K, we could use the formula K is equal to Q over P. And so in this case, maybe we have 3 over 1. Therefore, the K must be 3. If you want to play it safe, we got to test it twice. So then K over P. And let's try the second set of numbers, 6 over 2. And you know that 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. So you know that the K is equal to 3 in both numbers. So in this case, we could go back up there. K is equal to 3. All right, so we go up there and we could write that down. So therefore, the equation with K equals 3 must be Q is equal to 3P. Now, how do we use this in a formula here? And let me put a box around it. So go ahead and put a box around that too. So then, using it to plug in the rest of the numbers, we could actually, here we could use the equation. And we'll see, let's say that we want to find out what 3 and 4 are. So using the equation, you know that Q is equal to 3P. We're going to put that. And therefore, if P is equal to 4, so let's say that right here, we're going to write P is equal to, 3 first. Then we're going to have Q is equal to 3, and then you plug in the P there, times 3. And you should be, if you do the math there, 3 times 3 is 9. Therefore, the Q must be 9. All right, you could do another one. What if Q equals 3P, but this time the P is equal to 4? Then you'll notice that Q is equal to 3. You plug in the 4 instead of the P right there, and it equals the 12. At this point, I just want to verbally highlight that. Remember, you could plug numbers in, right? Anytime there's an equal sign, remember that just means substitution. So you could piece any of these numbers in. Ultimately, this is what you're looking for. So to briefly recap, right? Sometimes you'll be asked to find what the constant of proportion is. If you are told to look for the constant of proportionality, go ahead and use this formula here, Q divided by P, and it gives you the K. Now, sometimes it tells you to go a little bit beyond, and it tells you to come up with a formula. So, and actually, let's go back into the formula and put a box around here as well so we remember this. But Q is equal to KP. That's going to be the formula. And let's add even another point here. I know we're backtracking a bit, but you need to find what K is, okay? So you need to find K and plug it in. And therefore, you'll get something like, let's just do a dotted line. You should get something like that. So with that, that kind of ends our little notes on proportions. I'm going to zoom out here if you need this section right here. You can go ahead and pause it and complete anything you need. But just know, if you're told to look for the equation of the proportion, then this is what you're looking for. It can even be a fraction, by the way. It could be an improper fraction. Please make sure that you leave it as such. And I believe that would generally be everything you need to know.